Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Saturday, July the 5th. And welcome to our commentary. Well, I guess we have to say something about what's happening in South Texas. It's an absolute, unbelievable human tragedy. I was talking earlier today with a friend from down there. He lives closer to the border, but nevertheless close enough to what is happening. And he says that they had never seen flooding quite like this before, especially how quickly it all happened. I mean, you had apparently people in their camps or whatever sleeping, and sometime between 3 and 5 o'clock, all that water came down. And I'm not exactly familiar with all the details, except to tell you that it's a pretty amazing tragedy. We just learned today that there's a couple of girls 9, 10 years old in that range, who go to a local Catholic church not far from here, who are among two who were found dead. Their grandparents were also are missing at the moment, and lots of people are missing at the moment. A lot of these young girls who were at that camp are missing this morning as well. So, there's just no words to describe it, other than you pray for the families, and you obviously hope that their families can deal with it, and that the rest of the community embraces them, which I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. I understand there's already one mass at a local Catholic church here for a couple of girls also who were found dead down there. So just one of those things that happens in life that one can never understand, especially when you're dealing with 11, 12-year-old girls. I mean, it's just, again, all I can tell you is let's send our prayers. Let's think about these people whose lives have been turned upside down, and let's embrace these people and do our best as a community. I think Texas, as always, will stand up, and our infrastructure is fabulous. Our government, our state government, has great leadership, and you can see already how much is going on and all the different operations going on down there, all the staff, all the manpower. I mean, everything is obviously in place to make the best of this. But the one thing that, you can have all the helicopters, all the manpower in the world, but the one thing, of course, that you cannot replace is the loss of human life. And especially when you're talking about these young girls, that I think that is just so. Again, our prayers, and let's embrace these families, and do whatever we can to make their lives better. Hard to do that when you lose a 10 or 11-year-old daughter that you send to a camp. Like lots of Texans do that every year. They send their kids to these camps. So hard to recover from something like that, but let's do our best as a community to help these families recover from this absolutely terrible. I don't know how else to say it. Just absolutely terrible situation down in South Texas. It's over by the Guadalupe River, which is over by Kerrville, down in South Texas. I guess they say it's northwest of San Antonio, I believe. That's where the exact location of all of this is. So again, our prayers to the families, and let's do whatever we can to help these families. Well, I've got a post over at the American Thinker. I had one on July 4th and one today, Saturday, where I'm talking about this whole question of pride in America. You may have seen these polls where a percentage of the population, especially a lot of college-age kids, don't feel proud about the country. They have this sense that there's something wrong with the country, and they're not proud of being Americans. And I don't understand that. And that's what my post over at the American Thinker is all about. Because I can tell you, speaking for me, having come to the United States with my parents when I was 12 years old, and I was brought here because my parents wanted to give me and my brother and my sister an opportunity at a better life, which is what we found in the United States, a much better life. My life, as I've said many times, my life would have been totally different if I had stayed in Cuba. I mean, the opportunities like this one that I have of being able to speak freely in a video and be a part of just be a part of things. I would have never had that in Cuba. My life would have been very restricted by government, to say the least, because that's what communist governments do. So the opportunity that I got to come here, which again, it's all because of my parents. They're the ones who decided to leave Cuba, and they took us with them. And I've always been so grateful for that I have a chance to be here, and have always been so proud of the fact that I can celebrate July 4th here in the United States, because July 4th to me personally means a lot about freedom. And maybe when you've lived in a communist country, even for the few years that I did, but especially if you were to talk to Cubans like my parents who actually experienced it to a much larger degree, when you come here and you smell the freedom and you live the freedom, then yeah, you're very proud of the United States. And I simply cannot understand how anybody can say that they're not proud of the United States. Now you can say we have things that we can improve. Look, I've participated in political debates all the time, and there are things that we can do better. But those are political debates. Those are policy debates. That's not about feeling proud about the country. I've always been very proud of the country. I don't care who the president is, because I can put the presidency aside and still think of the country. For example, I wasn't crazy about the Obama presidency. Obviously, the Biden presidency was not good, but I was still proud of the country. I still had faith in the country. I still knew that the country would come back as it did in 2024. So to those young people who don't have any pride in their country or are not proud of the United States, I mean, I don't know what to tell. I don't know what to say to them, except that you've been lied to. And I assume our educational system has a lot to do with it, because we've been teaching kids how horrible the country is. I mean, when they teach American history, it seems that all they want to talk about is slavery. Well, slavery was a part of it. I'm not going to deny it. But there was so much more to the country than the slavery. There was a lot more to it. I mean, the Declaration of Independence is an amazing document. We just celebrated another anniversary of that. The Constitution, amazing document. The three branches of government that the Constitution created, they're the best. They're the best system in the world. Compared to any other country, we have the best system in the world. We have the best economy in the world. And that's because of our belief in the free market system. Even though at times government gets too big and taxation is too high, we still have the best system in the world. So if there's a person out there who's not proud of their country, maybe you need to just sort of sit back a little bit and take another look at this and ask yourself the question, what are you proud of? What other system are you proud of that would be better than this one? And I think if you really gave this some thought, I believe that you'll come around to feeling very fortunate that you're living in the United States. Now, I think there's something else going on too with this whole question of not being proud. I think there's some Trump derangement syndrome going on here. In other words, I think there's a lot of people who are angry at the country because we elected Trump. They're angry. They don't like Trump, obviously. They think Trump is a dictator or whatever, and which he's not, but that's what they think. They don't know what a dictatorship is. If you call Trump a dictator, then you don't know what a dictatorship is. I mean, it's as simple as that. But I think there's some Trump derangement syndrome here. We have people who feel very angry about Trump, very angry that he was elected by the numbers he was elected. So maybe they just hate that and say, I'm not proud of the country because it elected Trump. That would have been like me saying, I'm not proud of the country because it elected Obama. Okay, I didn't like Obama, and I thought Obama overall was a very bad president. Certainly weak, certainly didn't live up to anything. I mean, Obamacare had turned out to be a disaster, and that was the signature legislation. But look, I didn't say I'm not proud of the country. I felt strongly about the country. I just didn't like the president that the country elected, but I'm still proud of the country. So maybe it's time for some of these people who are not proud of the country to take another look at all of this and realize how fortunate they are really to be in the United States. And if they don't like the political results, well, look, this goes back and forth. I didn't always like the results of the election. Believe me, I've been through quite a few of these, and I didn't always like the way they turned out, but I certainly was always very proud of the United States. Well, the so-called beautiful bill has been signed, and it's, right now it's the law of the land, as they like to say. We hope that the Congress will come back with more legislation through the appropriations process. We've got to bring down the size of government. But I think this bill is going to be positive overall for the U.S. economy and for the country, and that's why I'm optimistic about it. The other thing we have to understand is that the next midterm elections are not going to be until November of 2026. So basically, we have a year and 4 months for some of the things in this bill to materialize, especially, for example, the no taxes on overtime and no taxes on Social Security, the end of what they call the death tax, which is horrible for small businesses and so on. So I think that the one thing going for President Trump at the moment is that he's got a whole year for this bill to sort of sink in and start showing some results. The other thing he's got going for him is that the Democrat Party has nothing. I mean, the Democrat Party, their entire platform is, let's hope that Trump fails. And let's hope that everything that Trump is doing fails. Well, sometimes you get lucky and that works. But most of the time, it doesn't work that way. And if they don't have something else to run on other than this was a horrible bill, raising, giving millionaires a tax break and cutting people off of welfare, if that's all they have, that's not going to be enough. That much I can tell you. It's not going to be enough because the American people are smarter than that. And again, there's a whole year ahead of us for the Republicans to do something they didn't do, frankly, back in 2018 when they lost the House and they lost the Senate, something they didn't do back then, or the House, not the Senate, and that is to set the narrative. And one thing about Trump is that Trump will set the narrative, and he will fight for the narrative, which is, I think, so important when you have these midterm elections. Another thing that the Republicans have this year, and that's to some extent thanks to Trump, is that they have a lot of cash. They are heading into these midterm elections with lots and lots of cash. And it's the Democrats who are hurting for cash. Now, that isn't always that way. In previous elections, it's the Democrats who had a lot of money. This time around, it's the Republicans who seem to have a lot more money because the Democrats are a little bit confused, and some of the people who write big checks for them are not doing so because they're concerned about the state of the party. How can you blame them? But anyway, I think overall the bill is going to work out well for the country, and I think it'll work out well for the Republicans. But then again, we have a lot of time ahead of us. A lot of things can happen both ways. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time. And remember, happy July 4th. I hope you had a good one because there's a lot to celebrate about July the 4th. Thank you very much.